Tonight on CBC television at 7, special summer series continues showcasing BC talent in front of and behind the camera. There'll be a documentary tonight about 3 of the most innovative leaders in social media in the world who are all from Vancouver. It's called Generation Social, and Andrew Levine is the producer and director behind the film. Generation Social is Andrew Levine's second feature-length documentary. His earlier film, With Glowing Hearts, looked at the intersections between social justice and social media around the Vancouver Olympic Games in 2010. He's sticking with the social media theme for this latest film, and here's a little bit of the trailer from the film. Let's have a listen to this.
How about a dude telling you you can make millions just by blogging?
Never in my wildest dream would I imagine myself being able to live anywhere I want in the world and make money doing it.
Yeah, it's all in the film. Lurker.
There's a very large number of people on Facebook who are logging onto Facebook several times a week, and in many cases several times a day, but hardly posting at all. What social media researchers will term lurkers.
What did you just call me?
Well, it's obvious you're one of those people.
Yes, whether it is lurkers or entrepreneurs or social media academics, Andrew Levine found that Vancouver has some of the top people in the field, and I spoke to Andrew earlier this week.
There's a lot of exciting people doing exciting things in social media around the world, and a lot of them are right here in Vancouver. And that's part of what I was hoping this film would introduce people to and give them that experience that Vancouver is a leader in social media, and here are the people that are doing it. And I've met some of these people individually, and I thought they're fascinating, and I wanted to make sure that people in Vancouver got to meet them too.
And you've chosen 3 main characters, and each one of them is colorful in his or her own way. I guess it's really 4 main characters.
Yeah.
But why don't you go down just quickly, introduce me sort of a 30-second tidbit on each one.
Well, going into this film, I would say I knew Dave Olson the most because he appeared in my last film. Dave's a colorful character, and he's one of the, I would say, bigger personalities in social media in Vancouver. And he's really just fun to be around. He's always doing interesting and innovative things. So Dave was a no-brainer. And then, of course, the whole idea of Hootsuite, it had to involve the CEO, Ryan Holmes. And so Dave introduced me to Ryan, and Ryan and I got along, and he agreed to be in the film. And Ryan's an interesting guy and really, really fun and very driven, and he's got such a vision for what he wants to do and the people he wants to help. And so he was very inspiring to cover. The next person I would introduce to you that's in the film is Alexandra Samuel, and she has been in social media in that landscape for 15 years and has her hands in a lot of different things. And so in order to follow her around for the piece that we did with Emily Carr University, we had very little time to jump in there and capture her doing her thing because she's a woman on the move.
And she runs a new center for social media.
Yeah, it's called the Emily Carr, it's the SIM Center, Social Media and Interactive Center at Emily Carr University. It's a research center at Emily Carr. It's been around for 2 years.
So we have a startup in Vancouver, which is very successful. We have an academic institution, which is leading the way on social media studies. And then your third character, possibly the wackiest of them all. Tell me about your third character.
Well, John Chow. John Chow has made a name for himself and a great living blogging by telling people how much money he makes online, blogging.
That's how he makes his money.
That's how he makes his money.
He makes his money by telling people how he makes money.
Exactly. And that's what's so fascinating about John is John is a wonderful guy who really wants to take you to the same heights as himself. And not just about earning money doing that, but helping you get to sort of where he is. And he's excited about doing that, and he has been very successful at doing that himself.
What was the most surprising thing you learned about any of these individuals as you made the film?
Well, it's amazing about Alexandra is how busy she is as a person and how much she's involved in technology, and not only, blogging for Oprah.com and for Harvard Business Review, and working at Emily Carr, but she's this amazing social media mom. So I spent a few hours at her house with her husband and her 2 kids. That whole, social media family was very educational for me and very inspiring.
I was struck by the way that she said that when her kids are hitting university age, they're going to need to have a real facility with these tools.
Yeah, it's almost like learning math. You learn math, the skills of math, so that you can go on in your, say, whatever, manage your financial life. Well, social media skills, the way Alexandra was talking about, seemed very similar. It's like, if you teach your kids the technology, when they get to the age where they can then sort of embrace it and use it for themselves, the more they know its parameters and how to use it properly or safely, I think they're going to have a head over heels advantage over some of the kids, say parents who are afraid to cross that line or get into it with their children.
And John Chow, I mean, he gave his daughter an online profile even before she was born.
Yeah, and if you ask me, what was one of the surprising things, that was one of the surprising things that John said. It was like, oh, well, have you heard the story about before our child was born? My wife and I were talking about names, and we came up with a list of names, and I went online to see which of the domain names were available, and I narrowed the list, and I gave the list back to my wife, and she said, why did you choose these names? And he said, well, I like the names, and the domain name was available. That's exactly my reaction. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So,
and then he actually created a website for her.
Oh, yeah, and her website started, 3 weeks before she was born. Amazing. And she's now 6 years old. So, there's an incredible documentation of this child's life online. The thing about John and his message to everybody is like, sure, yeah, I've done well in this space, but what's important for me is the time that I get to spend with my family. And so that was the thing. We were there for a number of days because he spends his winters in California because he's able to. Every day he walked his daughter to school, and every day he picked her up at lunch, and his wife was there too. So it's like that family they spend all their time together, as much time as they want together, which is probably a luxury that a lot of people don't have.
What is it about social media and covering social media in this way that interests you particularly? What drew you to this topic?
I think for me, social media has become my new way of informing myself about my community. Like, I always found that Vancouver was a difficult way to find things that were going on, to get information about your community. Sure, we have the Georgia Strait, but beyond that, the coverage that we have for stuff has gotten way better since the introduction of social media. And maybe that's because Vancouverites are very sort of advanced when it comes to social media, and that's one of the reasons why I felt it was important to tell people that didn't know that about Vancouver that, yeah, hey, we're a leader. And I think because of that, I thought, well, who are these people behind the avatars? I wanted to get to know them sort of in a more traditional media sense and, share that with people.
Andrew, thanks for coming in.
It was my pleasure.
That's independent filmmaker Andrew Levine. His documentary Generation Social airs tonight on CBC Television at 7 p.m.